So hi, my name's Joe Brewer, and I'm continuing this series of book reviews looking at the ways we can better understand global systemic change in culture to design our way into a better future. And the topic that I want to discuss with you today is systemic risk. And the book that I'm reviewing is this one, The Butterfly Defect: How Globalization Creates Systemic Risk and What to Do About It, by Ian Golden and Mike Mariathison. Now, this book explores a very interesting topic, which is the way that globalization has fundamentally changed how we experience difficulties in the world. So the book starts off by exploring what systemic risk is, and then goes into several different chapters that focus on topics having to do with different parts of society. So there's a section on the global financial system and how the financial crisis and collapse of 2007, 2008 is an indication of the types of difficulties and shocks we should be expecting and that we'll be seeing more of. Similarly, there's a section on environmental harm, another one on wealth inequality, one on pandemics and public health. So in each of these topics, what the book does is it explores how the world we live in today is more profoundly interconnected, decentralized, large-scale, and complex than it ever has been in history. So when there is a disruption in one part of society, that disruption can go through what are called cascading shocks, or multiple synchronous collapse, where a disruption in one system causes it to break down, which then connects to another system that's connected to it, and then that one starts to break down, which then cascades on and on. So a classic example of this is the Tohoku earthquake in Japan, which caused the tsunami that flooded the Fukushima nuclear reactor, which then caused it to melt down and explode, and so on. There were these series of cascading effects. Well, it turns out that that interconnectedness in the world that is so commonplace now is both the consequence of globalization and something that is probably with us to stay. And so we have to manage our global society differently than we ever have before. So think of another example in the realm of pandemics and public health. If there is a contagious disease that a person gets in a remote village somewhere in the world, and then it is transferred to a person who goes to an airport in a major city, within 3 days, that tiny set of events could have global consequences. And so we're seeing that now with what's happening in Western Africa with the Ebola outbreak that has started to spread into Europe and the United States, and we're going to see it spread to other places because the interconnectivity of human systems is so profound now. So why do we care about this? It's probably obvious from the examples I've given so far, but one of the reasons we care about this is that the way that we used to measure the health of our social systems is that they don't work anymore. So we used to measure our social systems around static indicators like gross domestic product or infant mortality rates, these macroeconomic indicators. What those indicators do not tell us is they don't tell us the fragility, resilience, robustness of social systems that are dynamic and ever-changing. So what we have to do is move away from those static models and look at all of these situations, all of these concerns, as dynamic systems, looking at them as changing patterns. So the network connectivity of transportation infrastructure and the internet, or the lack of visibility into decision-making in the financial sector, that these are features of ever-changing adaptive systems. And so if we want to understand them, we need to bring forward the tools of complexity science, the tools of network science, and the tools of dynamic systems modeling. So this is one of the big differences that we've already started seeing in the academic institutions of the world that focus on these globalization issues, as well as in the governing bodies, whether they're international organizations like the World Bank and the IMF, or they're large corporations like Coca-Cola or Unilever, these companies that have global supply chains that are looking at and experiencing these systemic consequences on a daily basis. So what I would recommend for anyone who wants to guide social change processes in the 21st century is I would recommend for them to really think deeply about complexity science and about this notion of systemic risk, how interconnections and dynamic processes, feedback mechanisms within human systems and environmental systems, how they all connect to each other, and that the unintended consequences of even very remote connections can cause a great deal of harm if we don't plan it properly. So this book is really an excellent introduction, The Butterfly Defect, which plays on the notion of the butterfly effect coming from chaos theory, the sense that a small change in one place in a system, like a butterfly flapping its wings in the Caribbean, can change the strength of a typhoon that hits Japan 2 weeks later. This notion of indirect effects within interdependent systems. This is the way we need to be thinking about the world regarding everything that we do from now moving forward. So anyone who's doing culture design work needs to learn about global systemic risk and how it relates to the way that we plan every major decision in society. So that's it. Go and get your copy today. I highly recommend this one as an introduction, The Butterfly Defect by Ian Golden and Mike Mariathison. Get your copy today. Go learn more complexity science and understand how our world is changing, how it changes the way that we experience risk and opportunity, and therefore how we should change the way that we make decisions and plan for the future. All right, go get your copy today and enjoy.